Hey, Neil McDonald here. Good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast, way out there in Hawaii. Russ, thanks for signing in. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. It is a beautiful day out there. I'm super excited about that. It always puts me in a good mood. As long as my air conditioning keeps working, life is going to be perfect. I wanted to thank those of you showing up early and on time. I appreciate that you do. When you do, first off, it's just a good sign of respect for the training, but also it lets LinkedIn push the word out, right? And lets other people know that we're starting our training. I want people to know who you are, but I also want to be able to come back and occasionally look in, see your comments. So I noticed some of you are putting in what you sell, where you're coming in from. I saw somebody from Raleigh and somebody else in Arlington, not far from me. But tell me also, what's your target agency? And don't give me a bunch. What's one target agency that you're trying to get into? I like to keep that in mind. If I happen to be doing something and I begin to remember and tie it to you and what's important to you, then that's pretty good. But also other people in the community might go, oh, hey, I'm also targeting the Army. Let's connect and chat. So just go ahead and put that into the chat. Who are you trying to target? Let me turn off some of my captions and I'm going to get started here. Okay, let's get rock and rolling. I got a lot to share in a short amount of time. Today, we're going to be talking about not hitting your federal revenue goals. This is a really important thing. And it doesn't matter whether your company is brand new and you're just getting started or you're $1 billion company. If you're not hitting your revenue goals, then you can look back in your process. You can look back in the activity that you do and figure out why you're not hitting your revenue goals. I put a Coke bottle here to show you a bottleneck in case you needed a visual on a bottleneck and where the bottleneck is on the Coke bottle. But if you get rid of the bottleneck, the Coke just pours out. So imagine instead of a Coke bottle, now it's just a Coke glass and it pours out. Well, every process that we work on, if you think about a car factory where they're manufacturing and making cars, and the car is coming from just parts to a final car at the end, there's always a bottleneck. Somewhere in there in the process, there's a bottleneck. And for what we do in federal sales, again, whether we're brand new or we're $1 billion firm, when we look at our process, what we're doing in the course of a year, let's say, there's going to be a bottleneck. And when we can identify the bottleneck, we can decide whether that's an acceptable bottleneck and you just can't do anything about it. Like the Coke bottle, it's a designed bottleneck. Whether that bottleneck is there, or more importantly, whether that bottleneck is more of a hurdle and you need to address that challenge that's before your process, the thing that is keeping you from getting federal revenue. And so today's target or today's training is around adding another million or 10 million, right? If you're struggling to get that revenue goal you've set for your company, then there's a reason you struggled. It's not because you can't win the contracts. The contracts are there for you to win. And I run through the same thing, right? I have a goal, I have a thing I want. If I don't get it, there's a reason that's coming back. And it's not because I don't deserve it, right? It's not because I'm not working hard enough. If we don't hit our goals, you and I, it's because of something in the process that we are doing to try to achieve that goal. And that's what I want to go into. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. The other thing, and I'll get to this in a minute, but when you identify that root cause of the problem, you'd be amazed on how fast things start moving forward. Sometimes that root cause is as simple as you don't have the knowledge of what needs to be done. Other times you might know what needs to be done, but you're just not good at it yet. One of my favorite lines is that we're no good at something until we're good at it. And the thing that is between those 2 points is experience. Practice is important, but we've got to make sure we're doing it the right way. And that's what skill and knowledge is about. So today we're going to be pushing down into that, right? How do we stop missing our revenue goals by really analyzing our process? And it comes down to looking at your process and trying to understand, I'm not meeting it. Why am I not meeting it? I'm going to talk to you in today's training and give you basically the answer or the key to look at your own company and go, why aren't we hitting our revenue goal? I'm going to cover down on today's topic. It's going to go through a 7-step process that I teach. This is the 7-step process I've been teaching pretty much since 2018. I took the overly complicated process that I was doing when I was a government contractor. I took it and I broke it down to 7 steps. I'm like, this is all that I need to be doing. I don't need to have all this other craziness. And so I'm going to walk through this and you'll see me reverse engineer the process. One thing I will tell you about a process, when you see this, if you look at sales being the end of the process and then proposals coming this way, and I'll expand. Actually, let me do this really quick. If you see it, sales to proposals, I'm going backwards in the process. The thing you want to keep in mind are these are all what we call leading indicators. These are all indicators on whether you're going to have success as in sales and revenue, right? If you're not meeting revenue, that's a lagging indicator that our process is not working. What I want to do is go back and look at the leading indicators so I can learn long beforehand where I might be having a problem so that I can then address it. And that's what I'm going to try to teach you today, what we're going to walk through. And by the way, if you've been through similar training like this and you're thinking about this, this is something we do on a quarterly basis at least. We should be looking at our company. This shouldn't be one and done training or something. You should have a process for how to review your company. Even when you're doing well, you want to look at that process and go, hey, do we have a bottleneck we want to track on? If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonald. I am the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. I'm co-founder of GovCon in a Box, where we provide tools for sales trainings. I spent 20 years as a small business owner in the federal market after I got out of the Army. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we're going to have repeatable, predictable results. You'll notice in the process diagram that I show, that's exactly what I say every day when I come to the training and exactly what I put in that diagram. A process that's designed to give us repeatable, predictable results. I want to welcome you to my federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. If you're not connected with me here on LinkedIn, come over. This is where we can engage with each other. We've got 50 people right now, probably more on Twitter and YouTube. And we'll have 100 people registered for today. Sometimes I have 200, 300, 400 people come to these live trainings. That's your community. When you come in and connect with me and others, you're able to build your network. And your network is really how you get stronger relationships and you get more successful in government contracting. And then the last two things I just want to say, if you haven't subscribed to my newsletter, go ahead and do that. It's Government Contracting Success Newsletter. It's right here on LinkedIn. And also tomorrow's training. What is tomorrow's training? It's a really good one. I forgot it already. Stop the ghosting by federal agencies. And so if you feel like you're sending emails, making phone calls, et cetera, and you're not getting any callbacks, so they're just, we call it ghosting. If you feel like you're being ghosted by the federal buyer, just reach out and I will sit there and teach you on how you can get past that. Okay, let's get rocking and rolling with our reverse engineering the process on why we're not meeting the revenues goals we have set for ourselves or hitting the revenue goals we've set for ourselves. The first thing that has to be in place, if you haven't done this already, is you need to have a revenue goal written down. If that goal is moving all over, we'll take what we can get, we'll do some stuff, and we'll see how the results come out. That's not good planning. Planning means I'm at $5 million this year. Next year, I want to be at $6 million. That's a really important thing to pay attention to. I've got to get rid of this little thing because, hold on one second. Let me see if I can go like this really quick. All right. So when you have a solid revenue goal written down, then you can start having the ACV and TCV, which are annual contract values and total contract value. And the reason I'm saying this is you can't hit a revenue goal unless you know what your annual contract value is. And in this case, I want to add 1 million more to my company's revenue. I said I was at 5, I want to go to 6. And so that ACV, the annual contract value of what I want to win, the contracts I want to win, will be $1 million. But I'm an IT company. My past companies were IT companies. And so I have a total contract value of $5 million because my contracts typically are 5-year awards. They're awarded at a base year plus 4 option years. Let's say it's all $1 million each. So my total contract value is going to be $5 million. I need to have those goals set. How can I be hitting my sales goals if I'm not setting those sales goals? I don't know what I'm trying to go after. And you can see a whole bunch of other trainings I've done on breaking that down. The other thing I need to make sure I have in place for sales is my win rate. If I'm sending over opportunities, how many of those opportunities am I winning? Am I winning 1 out of 4, which I say is really the goal you should be looking for? Are you winning 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20? Those are really important numbers to track. These key metrics is how frequently are we winning? That should not be unpredictable. It should get to the point where it's pretty predictable. Even before I was as good as I am today with process, in my last company, we were 1 out of 4. I knew I could win 1 out of every 4 opportunities. And so that's important for you to understand as well. You're going to see me talk about this throughout the entire training. We're trying to hit the revenue goal, so sales needs to be understood. Otherwise, how can you get to that revenue goal if you haven't decided where I'm trying to get at sales? And so let's move that step. Let's move it forward a step and go into proposals. And I'll just pop this up big for a second. So in proposals, right, you can't win sales unless you're submitting enough proposals, but not just enough proposals. They need to be winning proposals. I described this, or I created this thing called a winning proposal score. If you're experienced enough, you know this term P-win, probability of winning. And I never liked that. P-wins are wrong for 2 main reasons in my mind. One is because generally, and when I say generally, I mean always, except for I'm trying to make a little exception, but people just guess that number. We just guess it. Even I did that in the past. We're like, P-win, well, I've done this, and let me write that number down. The second reason I don't like P-win, probability of winning, is because the probability of winning is directly related to the number of proposals the government buyer got. If 10 people submitted winning proposals, then my probability of winning is 1 out of 10, isn't it? It's not some magic number I do back here. So instead, I created this thing called a winning proposal score. And the point is, are you submitting proposals that when the government buyer looks at it, they're like, damn, I got to award this to these guys. The challenge you might run into is there might be 2 or 3 other companies that are submitting winning proposals that the government's like, oh, I got to award it to them. But they can only award to one of us usually, right? But you need to make sure you're in that pool of winning proposals so they could choose from you. So this metric that I want you to look at is to ask yourself, for my sales goals, my total contract value sales goals, am I submitting enough proposals out the door? An example is if I want to win a $5 million contract, total contract value, remember I just said that, then I need to be submitting minimum $20 million in proposal value. And proposal value is basically total contract value, but at the proposal stage. So that proposal value that I'm sending over needs to be at least 4 times the number that I set for my sales goal. But my metric that I'm tracking is, am I submitting enough winning proposals? So I need to know what is enough. How many are enough? Generally, this should be 20 to 40 a year. You can go watch my other training and you can figure out how to do it. That's not hard, even if you just started, because, and I don't mean you just start and you do it today. I mean, it's not hard to get to because you build relationships and you sub for the first 20 opportunities, for the first 100 opportunities. You can subcontract. You can still do 20 proposals a year, no problem. You just might not be able to prime those. Again, watch previous training. So I looked at this metric coming back saying, if I'm not submitting enough proposals, then I'm not going to hit my sales goals. If you're not submitting enough proposals, you will know right then and there that there's a bottleneck. Let me add more proposals, winning proposals going out the door. By the way, this is a 30-minute training, so it'll go at that pace as well, and I'm keeping it at a high level. I've done hundreds of trainings in the last few years around these topics. You can find me dive deeper into each one of these process steps. So let's talk about the opportunities. So if I make this big again for a second, if I back up and I say to myself, you know what, I am submitting enough proposals. I'm submitting enough proposals out there. Then I got to look backwards and go, well, actually, if I'm decided I'm not submitting enough proposals, I've got to look backwards and go, well, do I have enough opportunities in my sales pipeline? Right? And when I say an opportunity, I mean a slam dunk opportunity that you feel like this was written for your company. My previous company, that would be Microsoft SharePoint. If it said Microsoft SharePoint support services, that's a slam dunk opportunity, right? Do you know what your slam dunk opportunity is? Could you write 3 or 4 words right in the chat, nothing else but 3 or 4 words saying, this is what my slam dunk is. Put that in the chat right now while we're talking. But do you have enough opportunities in the pipeline? And what is enough? Let's say that I want you submitting 20 proposals, winning proposals out the door. In order to submit 20 proposals, you need 40 slam dunk opportunities minimum in your pipeline to get 40 or 20 opportunities. Let me pause for a second. You need 40 slam dunk opportunities in your pipeline to get 20 proposals out the door, right? 20 winning proposals. And that's a really important thing to understand. I've done training last week, I think, about the numbers that I'm using here. But basically, I say if you've got slam dunk opportunities in your pipeline at a certain stage, then it's 1 out of every 2 will move forward to proposal. Some you'll abandon, some the government will cancel, some, just go away. So having twice as many opportunities. The other thing is when you analyze what you're doing with opportunities, the first thing is, do we have enough slam dunks? That's key. I need at least 40 that every single one of them, there's no rationalization. Anybody in your company looks and goes, oh, that was built for us. The second thing is, are you doing capture? Capture is not this mythical thing. It means you identify an opportunity and you call the customer and you start talking to them. You start learning about this opportunity. You start trying to shape the opportunity in your favor. Sometimes the most you can do about shaping is to learn, right? Learn about their needs, challenges, etc., but you're not really changing their mind. But that's enough to help you go beyond what your competitors are doing, who are just looking at the paperwork, right? You're having meetings. The second thing is you could shape the technical requirements. The third thing is you can shape the acquisition approach. So an example of shaping the acquisition approach is maybe you can get it pushed to HubZone or woman-owned set-aside. Things like that are what we call shaping an opportunity. But when you look at the opportunity step in the 7-step process, you have to ask yourself, if we're not doing enough proposals, that means something's wrong with the opportunities. Let me look at the opportunities. Do I have enough? If you have enough in number, then you need to look at the quality of the opportunity. Are they slam dunks? And when you have those in there, you have to ask yourself, are we doing capture? Because those things impact your ability to write a good proposal, right? A winning proposal. But let's say you don't have enough opportunities in the pipeline, right? You understand what I'm saying. You just don't have enough. You're not finding them. You're not hearing about it. Let's move into the next stage, reversing ourselves back through the process to strategic relationships. On the wheel here, I put relationships just out of space. But really what I mean is strategic relationships. And I want you to understand the difference first. Inside of here, we have almost 100 people who are one way or another in the training. That's our network, right? And these are great people. I can reach out. Some of you I'm seeing for the first time. Michael over on YouTube. Let me use him as an example. I don't know who he is. I might find out his last name. It turns out we do know each other. But at the moment, looking here, I don't know who he is. But Cindy has been in here numerous times. I would elevate her up on my network, but she and I haven't worked together, so I don't have a closer relationship. So you have all these relationships, and they just kind of get stronger and stronger. Not one of them is better than the other. Just some of them are, you're investing more time in them. So sometimes you're investing time on teaming and going after opportunities together. Sometimes you just invest by seeing each other at a local networking event, or maybe only time you see each other is in here. But other times you build that up to a strategic relationship. A strategic relationship is one where there is a mutual commitment to success. And you can have a strategic relationship with a government buyer and with teaming partners. The idea is it's something different, right? The mutual success of you and me in the industry, that's basically for us to hit revenue goals. But the mutual success maybe with me and David Waltz, who I see in here, he's on the federal buyer side. Our mutual relationship or mutual commitment to growth, or our commitment to mutual growth, that might be more about how can I help him with whatever his needs are. Maybe he's trying to push an RFI out to the industry. For me, what I'm looking for is to learn more about his organization or his broader Navy organization. That's how you work with a buyer and have that mutual or strategic relationship. So you need to have a sufficient amount of strategic relationships to hear about opportunities. That's why you want these relationships. If you see the wheel here, right? Relationships leads to opportunities. When you have relationships, you can hear about opportunities. If you've ever heard about us talk about the incumbent advantage, that means the person who already has the contract tends to have an advantage over those of us who might not be in there. Well, one of the big reasons is because the incumbents are inside the wire. imagine a wire around the whole military base or whatever. They're inside the wire. They can walk around, have lunch, coffee. I used to walk up to one of my customers, to the director of IT in there, and on his back wall, he had his 10-year strategic plan that he used to brief to his bosses. And we would sit in there and I could get an understanding of where they were going because I was part of their team as an incumbent. That's a really important thing that's out there is when you have strategic relationships, you can hear about opportunities that way from the buyer, but also you can hear about it from peers within the industry, other companies that are going after the Army, let's say, and you're going after the Army. You guys can throw opportunities back and forth. Here's the key about strategic relationships is you can't have more than a certain amount. After a certain amount, you run out of energy and time to invest in the relationship. And what I suggest you have are 16 strategic relationships with other government contractors. Depending on where you're at, if you're brand new, they should all be smalls. But when you're bigger, like 3, 4, 5 million and beyond, then you want 8 small strategic relationships and 8 large prime strategic relationships. When you have this, you're effectively increasing your sales team by 8 people or 16 people, excuse me. And I do a whole bunch of training on how do you find strategic partners? How do you build a relationship? How do you manage the time? Literally, you can manage 16 strategic partners in an hour once every 2 weeks, total time, not meeting time, total time. That means it's 16 hours out of 80 hours is towards strategic relationships. That is an incredibly good use of time. These people, the strategic relationships will only be ones, for example, if you're in IT, you're not going to have a strategic relationship who's in construction. You're going to have a friend who's in construction, a good, strong networking person who's in construction. But if you're in cybersecurity or IT, you want like-minded ones. So you're hearing about the same opportunities. You're meeting on a regular basis. Coming back to reviewing the process in order to figure out why you're not getting revenue. If you don't have enough opportunities in your pipeline, you look to your strategic relationships and ask yourself, do I have enough industry partners, strategic relationships that I maintain the relationship every 2 weeks? Do I have enough of those? If I don't, I need to develop more of those. And if I'm thinking about, I want opportunities in the Army, or the Navy, to David Waltz's shout out there, I need to build strategic relationships with customer folks in there. Literally, I think it was this week, might have been last week, but I put out this org chart of PEO Enterprise. They're the IT shop for the Army enterprise stuff. So the biggest IT shop in the Army. And in there, I'm able to find hundreds of people. And my goal is to get in there and find 4, maybe 8 strategic relationships, or to develop 8 or strategic relationships within PEO EIS, because they will tell me about opportunities. Hey, and nobody tells you anything you shouldn't know, but it's like, hey, watch out for this RFI, or this RFI just dropped, or maybe you should talk to such and such. They're exploring what you're doing. I can make an introduction, right? So you want to get those relationships in place. If you don't have enough opportunities, you look to your relationships. But if you don't have enough relationships, then we've got to sit there and identify more people who'd be willing to talk with you that you can develop into relationships. And so that'll be the next one. Really quickly, though, before I go to that, I do want to thank the live sponsors. I do this live every single day, except for when I take a couple of days off. So for the last 3 years at least, I've done over 700 videos. And sponsors like these are the ones who help make it happen. So Graham Inc., thank you very much. They do staffing and American Sign Language services. So if you're looking to staff up, et cetera, reach out to Graham. KZO Consulting is a new sponsor of ours. We welcome them. We thank them for joining us. They do fractional finance and contract subject matter expertise. So really think about pricing or anything to do with your contract administration, et cetera. Definitely check them out. And then Steel Toe does cybersecurity and CMMC support. CMMC is cybersecurity maturity model certification in DoD in particular. If you're trying to do work in there, make sure you check out Steel Toe. Be aware of what's going on with CMMC. And the last one is us, GovCon in a Box. We're sponsors of this. Go check out your federal visibility scoring, govconinabox.com. Also, check out a lot of the free and paid tools we have over there. We'd love to have you check it out. All right. And thank you to those sponsors. Let's talk about outreach. I don't have the strategic relationships, so it's not going to be able to build my pipeline of opportunities, nor enable me to write proposals. So I got to find people. And what I need to do is to do outreach. Basically, this is cold call, and I need to do enough cold calls. This is a really simple process to understand. You pick up the phone and you call other people. And you could do that with an email as well, right? But you call and reach out to people one at a time. You don't email blast because it'll just come back bad for you. It's quasi spam. But you reach out to people. You start targeting them. I'm trying to get in and into the Army to do a water thing. If those of you who are tracking Jay Madigan, he might be in here today. He and I are working on a particular project with another company on water, and we've decided the Army is a place we want to go. So we're picking up the phone. We're calling these folks out there. You need to be able to do that so you can have a couple of meetings with people to sit there and see if you can develop that into a strategic relationship. So that's outreach. It's really important that you're reaching out to enough of the right people. But the step before this is actually a bigger lift and more important. Let me rephrase it. It's not a bigger lift, actually. It's a more important lift because without this, you can't do outreach. And this is called targeting, right? Targeting is, this is how you're leading to those relationships you want, is if you aren't doing enough outreach, and 25 people a day is a minimum goal. You want to call 25 new people a day or email 25 new people a day. If you do not have the revenue that you're trying to get, and you have identified that you don't have the strategic relationships that enable you to hear about the opportunities to write proposals, then you're coming back and you're like, I got to get meetings. And in order to get meetings, I got to pick up the phone. Minimum 25 a day. Well, if you're doing 25 a day minimum, you're going to have 125 people you're calling every week. And so what I want you to do is to build a list and maintain that list of 200 or 300 people. I work with another customer who does sign language services, and we have a list of EEO folks. So equal employment opportunity, or equal, I think that's what it is. But anyways, it's the primary point of contact for sign language. And so we have a list of like 200 people just for that one thing, right? And so you can do that same thing. You identify who is the type of person I want to reach, and then you build that list. So for me, what I said with Jay, it's Army. So we'll build an Army list of 300 people related to water, and then we will reach out to them in the outreach phase. If you're not doing enough outreach because you don't have enough names, pause the outreach and build a list of 200 to 300 names. And this isn't overly hard, right? The first thing you got to do is identify generally who do you want. And by the way, don't make it a perfect person, because sometimes you want this person, but this person over here is more receptive and answers the phone. So you can talk to them, learn it a little bit, and then say, maybe you can introduce me to that person. Or maybe they introduce you to this person who introduces you to this person. So targeting is about having enough people that will eventually get you to 16 strategic relationships. Do you understand that? 200 or 300 people, you need to know their names, numbers, and emails before you start doing outreach that'll enable you to develop those relationships so you can start hearing about the opportunities. And the last step on here, the process, just mention this one really quickly. It's research. 1 hour a day, you should be pursuing your target agency. This is thirsty work. So research is one of the most important things, right? It's you showing the customer that you care. Nobody cares what you know until they know that you care. And when you research an agency, when you research that office you're trying to understand, not an individual so much, but you know that you want to get in and talk to the Army about water, we're going to research that. We're going to understand what the budget is, et cetera. That also enables me to find out which office is most likely aligned to who I want to talk to. So that helps me build the targeting. So you got to do the research. And my rule for you here, and my metric for you, what I want you to measure yourself on, if you're not getting revenue, ask yourself, are we doing 1 hour research on our target agency? I want $1 million out of the Army. Am I doing 1 hour a day on that? If I'm not, then I know what I need to work on, right? Here's what I want you to remember from today's training. I know I went through a lot in here. Yeah, Crystal. Here's what I want you to remember. The process gives you those leading indicators. If I'm not hitting my sales goals or my revenue goals, those are lagging indicators to the process. It tells me my process was flawed. But I can reverse it and say, well, let me go all the way back in my process and go, Do I have a list of 200 people? I do. Then that's a leading indicator that I'm going to succeed. Same thing with the rest of the process. Those are leading indicators that if I do all those right, they will lead to the revenue goals that I have. Second thing, and it kind of goes with what I just said, reverse engineer the process. Third thing is today, figure out your bottleneck. You don't have to spend a lot of time on this. Just go through those 7 steps and go, that's my bottleneck. All right, I'm out of time. Just remember, as you head into the rest of the day, government contracting, it is not a secret. It's just a process. Part of the process is ending on time. I'm out of time. I will see you in the next training.